how to read a taxiway diagram. Whether you print out a taxiway diagram or an airport diagram as it's sometimes referred to, or you do it on your iPad, it doesn't matter. They all read the same, and let's dive into a little bit. And I picked not exactly an easy one, but not a super difficult one either. In fact, one you'd probably deal with. It's a typical Class Delta airport at the Orlando Executive Airport. And where I always start when looking at an airport diagram or a taxiway diagram is in the top right corner. Am I at the right airport? Am I reading the proper chart? I can't tell you how many times I've seen student pilots open up an airport diagram for the wrong airport, because there's Orlando Executive, there's also Orlando North, there's Orlando International. There's a lot of airports that have Orlando in their name. Let's make sure we're at the right airport. So this is the Executive, Oscar Romeo Lima is the identifier. Make sure we're at the right airport. The next place I usually start is now over to the left with my frequencies. You'll see I have my ATIS. I have the tower. I not only have the tower there, I have the name of what the tower likes to be called. You'll see there it says Executive Tower. So when I call them up, I'm going to refer to them as Executive Ground, Executive Tower. They don't want to be called Orlando Tower. Orlando Tower is probably Orlando International. So they have their specific name that they like to be called as well. I have my ground control frequency, and I also have my clearance delivery frequency there. Now let's zoom in a little bit and take a look at some nuances of our actual taxiway diagram. I like to also start with looking at the date on the left-hand side. You can see this taxiway diagram is good from April 30th, 2015 to May 28th, 2015. I can look at those dates and say, am I looking at a current airport or taxiway diagram? If I was to get ramp checked, this is something the FAA man, the ramp check man, is going to want to see. Do I have current charts and current publications? Taxiway and airport diagrams included here. Make sure you're using current charts. From there, we can take a look over at these HS1s. I'm just kind of showing you some different nuances here. You see this HS1 with a line and a circle. You see HS2 with a line and a circle. You also see HS3 with a line and a circle. These are warning you of hot spots for runway incursions. HS stands for hotspot. These are areas at the Executive Airport where there have been one too many runway incursions. So many that they actually published it on the airport diagram itself, warning you, saying, listen, through these intersections, these are areas where pilots cause runway incursions, or, ground crew, it doesn't matter. Look at HS1. You can see right here, there's Alpha 4 and Alpha 3, and they both intersect a runway on top of having a closed taxiway, so the double X's there as well. That's a hot spot. Look at hot spot number 2, back over a little bit. There we have a LASSO, land and hold short operation, something we're going to share in a future video as well. But a lot of people violate that LASSO on top of having taxiway Echo and Alpha 6 join right there as well. Look at hotspot number 1. Echo 4 meets Alpha, which meets runway 1331, which meets taxiway Kilo. A lot's happening right there, and a lot of runway incursions. They're just alerting you, slow down, write down, read back, and make sure you're following all instructions through those busy and confusing areas. Let's look at our actual runways now. You'll see the runway 7 there is in gray, as well as the end of it at 2.5. So is 3.1 and 1.3. We can see our different runways there, and you can see they're in gray, showing us a displaced threshold through there. Let's look at some more nuances. There's the LASSO, like we talked about. Land and hold short operations is what LASSO stands for. To give you a brief summary, we're going to do an entire video on it, but just to plant the seed with you, you could be given a LASSO clearance that's going to say, hey, 23 Mike Zulu, land and hold short runway 1331 on runway 25. So I'm landing runway 25, yet I'm going to be instructed to land and hold short of the intersecting runway 1-3 and 3-1. And it's going to shorten up my runway. I had 6,000 feet available. Now I only have about 4,000 feet available. Land and hold short of is what they're talking about there. Also on here, you'll see they depict the tower. It's a great thing when you're trying to identify airport layout. You can always see the tower. You can say, okay, the tower, if I'm approaching from the north, okay, the tower is south of 2-5 and 7. It's in between 3-1 and 2-5. And I kind of position myself and orient myself to the actual airport layout and runway structure there, knowing where the tower's located on the field. It also gives you the elevation of the tower. I always like to read the notes as well. Look down below. It says, caution, be alert to runway crossing clearances. Then this next part is underlined. It says, read back of all runway holding instructions required. Meaning, if they tell you, hey, 23 Mike Zulu, taxi to runway 25, hold short of 13, well, I need to specifically read back taxi to 25, hold short of 13, or hold short of taxiway alpha, whatever it may be. I'm required to read back those holding procedures and requests that the tower or ground controller actually gives me here. Let's do a real world example now. Let's say I'm at the north ramp at whatever FBO that is up there where the blue arrow just dropped in. And look in the bottom right corner, I received this clearance. I'm instructed to taxi left on Echo, left on Alpha, right on Alpha 2 for runway 25. I read all that back and I begin my taxi. If I'm at that north ramp and I need to make a left on Echo, I see Echo. Echo goes right through the north ramp, no problem. Let's draw a line there. I turn on Echo. And I'm actually doing this as I get these instructions with my pen and paper. If I'm doing it on my iPad, I'm tracing it with my finger so I know exactly where I'm going. My next instruction is a left on Alpha. Well, I've got two options. I go left or right on Alpha. When I arrive there, they told me to turn left on Alpha, so I make that turn left on Alpha. I'm going to continue down left on Alpha until I see Alpha 2, where I was instructed to make a right. I turn right on Alpha 2 for runway 25. I'll do my run up down there and I'll contact Executive Tower and tell them I'm ready for takeoff. Always go through, always trace your route. And if you are hesitant, and again, we'll talk about this more in some radio communications lessons, but if you're ever hesitant on what instructions were given to you, just ask. Write down, read back, and be humble enough to ask if you need help when on taxi. You can always ask for what's called a progressive taxi, where they literally hold your hand and say, turn left, turn right, if that's what you need. But here's my homework for you. My homework for you is I want you to go find your local airport's diagram or taxiway diagram, print it out, download it on the iPad, and begin to study it. Keep in mind, not all airports produce a pretty taxiway diagram like you saw there. You might have to venture out to your local Class Delta or Charlie or larger airport to actually find that diagram. If you're at a little, airport that's uncontrolled, pilot controlled, you probably don't have a taxiway diagram. You need to look at some bigger airports. So do that. Jump on your iPad and find that. There's plenty of great websites. I'll list some resources underneath this video if you need some help finding those diagrams as well. That's my homework to you. Print it out, study it, or get it on the iPad and begin digesting it and studying it. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson.